Over the past decade, I've spent every single day of my life immersing myself and learning all about finances, started multiple multi-million-dollar businesses, and through all of that, I have managed to much better learn how to handle and manage my own finances. And in a world where everything is getting more and more expensive, it can sometimes feel like you're doing even more work for less reward. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you some of the financial habits that may be negatively impacting your financial future. So let's get into it. Mistake number one, having zero savings. I've talked about this countless times on my channel, but I definitely recommend that you have at minimum 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund saved up. Now, this is completely separate from your actual savings. This is for emergency living expenses. So God forbid you fall ill, you're in a terrible accident, you lose your job and you can't find another one very quickly. These are the funds that will essentially afford you to live without having to worry about your car being repossessed, your home being foreclosed on, and for you to just be able to afford to feed yourself and potentially your family. Now, like I said, I'm self-employed. And so as a self-employed person, I like to play things a little bit safer. And so I always make sure that I have 12 months of an emergency fund just in case. And this also kind of takes away some of that cyclical financial anxiety. If you've experienced financial anxiety, then you know there's absolutely nothing worse than worrying about if you're going to be able to pay your bills on time, how your credit score is, are you going to be approved for this loan or that? So again, having this emergency fund in place can really keep that financial anxiety in check and provide a lot of reassurance that you can handle basically whatever the world is going to throw at you, and allows you to sleep a little bit better at night. Mistake number two, not knowing the ins and outs of your finances. You would be shocked at the number of people who simply avoid logging into any of their financial institutions to check their balances, to check their credit card bills, anything, simply because they know that they have put themselves into a negative financial situation and they just don't want to deal with it, or they don't know how to deal with it. And so they keep those things out of sight, out of mind. They don't know how much they make. They don't know how much they spend. They don't know what they spend their money on. They don't know if they have any savings, and they aren't investing or saving for retirement. And it's essentially like if they don't log in and look at it, then the problem doesn't exist. If that sounds like you, then it's time to stop living in denial. Do yourself a favor and log in right now and look. What are the balances on your checking and your savings accounts? How much have you charged to your credit card or your credit cards this month? How are your investments doing? If you have any, treat this like the most important job you're ever going to have, because this is your own life. And think of this as a real world situation. So imagine you get an email from your boss. Now imagine that you just never opened that email and you never responded. You would probably be fired or reprimanded. There would be some kind of a consequence. So same thing. If you are not on top of your finances, if you just don't respond, if you leave them on red, your finances are going to reflect that. Your credit score is going to be poor. You're not going to be paying your bills on time, and there are consequences. This is your own life. So you, again, should be very intimately familiar with the ins and outs of your financial situations, good or bad. And you should know exactly what your financial goals are and be working towards those on a daily basis. Think about it like this. If you basically don't know where you stand financially, you aren't probably going to ever get to where you want to be. Let's say you're going to go on a road trip to Los Angeles, but you don't know your starting destination. That would be nearly impossible, if not completely impossible, to find directions to Los Angeles because you don't know where you're starting from. In addition to knowing the ins and outs of your finances, the next thing I wanted to bring up in this category is to try to avoid lifestyle creep. Now, I see way too many people fall victim to lifestyle creep, where essentially they get a promotion this week at work, and now next week they're out looking for a new home, shopping for a new car. So if you do get a promotion, obviously pat yourself on the back, congratulations, but give yourself a few months if you plan on increasing your cost of living to allow yourself to essentially save and provide a little bit of cushion in that emergency fund and your savings account to, again, account for your increased lifestyle spend if that's something you plan on doing. And the last thing in this category is budgeting accordingly. Now, I've said this again and again on my channel, but I do this every single month on the 1st, but I know people that do this once a year. At tax season. They log in finally and they look at all of their credit card statements to see where their money truly has been going. So make sure that this isn't you. Again, you should be doing this on a monthly basis, seeing exactly what you're spending your money on, where your money is going, making sure that you're reallocating money to investments, to emergency fund, to savings appropriately so that you're meeting your financial goals and setting yourself up for a successful financial future. And again, people that do this and carve out time to do this on a monthly basis are exponentially more more likely to actually meet their long-term financial goals than like those people who never log into their financial institutions and they really don't know where they're going financially. As you likely know, building wealth takes a ton of time and effort. It doesn't just fall into people's laps. It doesn't just accidentally happen over time. So if that's your goal, you want to continue building wealth, you need to be very intentional about the steps that you're taking and very on top of your finances. Mistake number 3, not addressing bad debt. Again, I've talked about this so many times on my channel, but I honestly feel, sadly, debt is just becoming the norm in the US. People are living so far beyond their means. It's honestly ridiculous, and they are setting themselves up for financial failure at the end of the day. And I'm even seeing this on small purchases. So even if you're buying, let's say, some clothes online or even on Amazon, you can make 4 payments of $15 instead of one $60 payment. Now, I personally have a rule that if I can't afford something at least 3 times over in cash, then I can't afford it and I'm not buying it. Now, all of this is essentially a mind money game that these companies are playing with you. So don't let them outsmart you. I've mentioned this study before, but researchers at MIT recently found that when people make purchases using a credit card, the portion of the participant's brain that's responsible for rewards and reinforcement lit up, sometimes even before the purchase was completed. And interestingly, they found that people who made the exact same purchase using cash didn't have the same experience. And that's likely because they were handing over a tangible asset, a tangible dollar bill or $20 or $50 bill in exchange for a good. Now, in addition to using the information from this study, companies know that it's much more palatable, it's easier to stomach a consumer making 4 much smaller payments than one larger lump sum payment, and they're going to use this to their advantage. While this may seem appealing upfront as a consumer, it definitely is not appealing in the long run, so don't let these companies outsmart you. If you're not careful, this can very quickly lead to credit card misuse and even credit card debt down the road. And with the average credit card interest rate sitting just below 25%, that's not really something you want to mess around with, and it can quickly turn into a debt snowball. And remember, even if something is on sale, that doesn't mean that you have an excuse to buy it. Remember, you save 100% of the money you don't spend. Mistake number 4, retail therapy. Marketers around the world make you think and make you believe that if you've had a really hard day, the perfect way to cure this is to go on a shopping spree. That could be for new clothes, shoes, cars, bags, or essentially any hobby that you could have. So again, make sure that you're very familiar with your own financial situation and be very honest with yourself. I know this is not the most fun thing that we can do, but this is going to help you in the long run. So can you actually afford that shopping spree? If you can, what is your budget going to be? And then make sure that you actually stick to that budget. Because if you do end up blowing your budget, that's essentially just going to kick the can down the road and perpetuate this negative financial cycle. Mistake number 5, trying to keep up with the Joneses. Now, oftentimes as we get older, it can be normal for people around us, including ourselves, to maybe get a raise at work, to make more money as we gain status at our job, or to just make a little bit more money in general. Now, this isn't always a linear trend, but this is the general trend as people are employed for a longer period of time. But if you have friends or family that make considerably more than you may feel pressure to try and go on vacation with them, maybe take a weekend away, or you feel like you need to buy that new car or that new luxury item just to have something to show off. But make sure that you're not falling into this trap. Remember that at the end of the day, the biggest flex that you can have is being financially secure. There is nothing better than being able to sleep well at night, knowing that your finances are handled, they're in place, and you have set yourself up for a successful financial future. That is, again, way more important than any object will ever be. So if this is your goal, then make sure that this is essentially your guiding star when you're dealing with all things finance. And remember that it's okay to say no to going on a family vacation or a weekend away, or maybe to propose something that's free, like letting the kids play at the park, or proposing something more local, like going to a local water park rather than flying to Disneyland or Disney World. And nobody should give you a hard time about this. And if they do, then they aren't really your family or your friends, and they don't truly respect you. And believe me when I say that the kids will not know the difference. You can make lasting family memories locally at a more affordable price than whisking them away on a fancy vacation. So that's all I have for today's video. If you found this to be helpful, please do me a huge favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you're notified every time I put out new content. As always, let me know if you have any questions in the comment section down below. Feel free to follow me on my social channels right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.